morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I'm Maria Hope Thompson, a senior English major music minor from Tougaloo College, and my project is entitled #Culture in 140 Characters, an analysis of Black Twitter as a cultural, social, and political authority. My thesis examines Black Twitter's use of rhetorical features from the African American oral tradition. I argue that Black Twitter plays a significant role in perpetuating African American cultural practices. This project shows where history meets the future, history being the African American oral tradition, and the future being Twitter, the social media platform, but more specifically, Black Twitter. In order to ensure everyone in the audience understands the scope of my project, I will define and contextualize various terms you will hear throughout this presentation. Twitter is one of many social media platforms created by Jack Dorsey, Noah Glass, Biz Stone, and Evan Williams. The microblogging site was initially intended for networking and communication purposes. Through posts consisting of 140 characters called tweets and 280 characters as of November 2017, users would interact with one another and engage in conversations. Conversations would consist of building brands, establishing clientele, and articulating political concerns. Initially, Twitter was the go-to space for rising entrepreneurs. It served as a way for them to become discovered and build their reputations. With the general consensus of Twitter, I will now transition into Black Twitter. Black Twitter is an offspring of Twitter. Similar to how each individual experience is unique for each person, Black Twitter changes with each user. It is not a genetic makeup of Black people and or of people of color who are on Twitter, rather a community of shared culture and history that takes place on Twitter. Understanding Black Twitter is understanding the fluidity of the term Black. Audrey P. Davis states, "Fluidity means that our Black identities are constantly changing as we respond to circumstances in our families and communities of origin, and as we interact with the wider world. Our Blackness is not stagnant, rather ever changing and conforming to our circumstances. That Blackness that is so fluid is then reflected on Twitter, which becomes Black Twitter. Black Twitter is the call to action of the voices of Blacks. Defined as both a noun and a verb, Black Twitter is where you go and who you are. A body, place, and movement, Black Twitter is a cultural conversation that is responsible for acknowledging racist assumptions, gives voices to muted and marginalized groups, the creation of hashtags that lead to the beginning of social justice movements, and the celebration of African American culture, all while engaging in shared experiences of people of the African diaspora and or descent." With the understanding of Twitter, the social media platform, and Black Twitter, the catalyst for the Black voice, my research examines the history of the African American oral tradition. The African American oral tradition derived during slavery. This tradition was used by slaves on plantations to openly communicate amongst one another in a language only familiar with them. In understanding the African American oral tradition, it is imperative to note this tradition is oral and not intended for the printed page. Because it is an oral tradition, the tradition was not written down, but more specifically, it cannot be dated. Since the oral tradition originated from slaves with the purpose of communicating with one another, the oral tradition was secretive and not circulated outside of the Black community. The vernacular is the bedrock and foundation of African American written literature. The oral tradition is seen through spirituals, gospel, blues, jazz, sermons and prayers, hip-hop, folk tales, and Black Twitter. The vernacular includes characteristics of signifying, call and response patterns, improvisation, code switching, stylized talk, with communal themes about burdens of slavery, suffering, survival, identity, transcendence, sex, love, inspiration, violence, and culture at large. The vernacular allowed for African Americans to see the world, its history, and its meaning, all from their vantage point. The ultimate goal of my project is to show the ways in which certain characteristics of the African American oral tradition are not only easily identifiable and relevant on Black Twitter, but also how those oral traditions are authorities and through its power transcend the world and culture in which we live in, along with the social media site itself. My research specifically focuses on call and response, signification, and code switching. Commonly found in sermons and prayers, Janice Hamlet defines the call and response pattern as a spontaneous verbal and nonverbal interaction between speaker and listener, in which the speaker's statements are punctuated by responses from the listener. Sarah Florini introduces signifying as a genre of linguistic performance that allows for the communication of multiple levels of meaning simultaneously, most frequently involving wordplay and misdirection, competitively figurative, subversively parodying speech of tales and less formalized talk. Code switching is having to adapt before initially responding. Audrey P. Davis asserts, African Americans subtly and reflexively change the way we express ourselves all the time. Code switching is the act of hopscotching between different cultural and linguistic spaces and different parts of our own identities, sometimes within a single interaction. Code switching allows for the individual to incorporate colloquial phrases solely based on the environment, space, or context that the individual is in. Using pithy statements, Black Twitter effortlessly coined phrases that began trending and would often result in some form of social, cultural, and political transformation. Soraya McDonald claims that Black Twitter is part cultural force. It is its own society within Twitter, replete with inside jokes, slang, and rules centered on the interests of young Blacks online. Black Twitter is a cultural authority because it is so influential to dominant culture that it has been imitated and adopted. Like the African American oral tradition, the culture is secretive and not spread throughout the Black community. An example of this would be hashtag IYKYK. Like the oral tradition, jokes made on Black Twitter are intended for entertainment purposes, but white multimillionaire companies often replicate jokes to profit off the Black idea. On the screen, I have two examples listed. The first tweet reads, Black culture is the blueprint. The picture, along with the caption, stems from the Addams Family movie series streamed last October. The marketing for the movie include a play on colloquial phrases initiated by Black culture. Phrases included talk to the hand, straight out of coffin, which derived from the movie Straight Outta Compton, it's gonna be lit, she woke up like this, a phrase coined by Beyonce, all hair don't care, and more. These titles show how Black culture is influencing the movie industry. The second image is of the Skopatu Mana Challenge, which is a modern-day example of call and response. Here, the speaker and or the Twitter user states a topic, so i.e. shooting your shot or being single, with the caption Skopatu Mana, and the Twitter users respond with their opinions on the subject. This challenge went viral in June of 2019. Likewise, Black Twitter is a social authority because it has not only sparked several movements, but also aided the Black community in progressing as a whole. Signifying is seen through the meme on the board. To the right is Black Ross. The picture went viral and is a diss. It's captioned with when both y'all miss the other, but nobody want to call first. Like the oral tradition, the meme was intended as a joke, but because it went viral so quickly, Elijah Rutland, the creator, was then invited to work on a Netflix children's show. When released, the announcement was then captioned, Black Twitter undefeated. Black Twitter is a social authority because what started off as a joke using signifying in a visual way turned into a job offer that would not have come true had it not gone viral on and through Black Twitter. Lastly, Black Twitter is a political authority because it both serves as a news outlet to millennials and Generation Z and has been effective in gaining political control for Blacks. During not only presidential elections, but voting season, there's a shift on Twitter that focuses on both voter registration and relevant and real-world political concerns that affect the underrepresented. Best said by Congresswoman Maxine Waters during a congressional hearing, the phrase, hashtag reclaiming my time, went viral in August 2017. This phrase was then adopted by Black Twitter and is shown through the tweets above, and also through the actions of Blacks by reclaiming their time and inserting their voice in society at large. A big part of being in corporate America and the political arena is the ability to code switch. The first tweet is of a corporate clapback. The clapback code switches between what is said in white terms versus what is meant in Black terms. It reads, I hope this email finds you well. Is code switch for, I came to let you know how messed up you got me. Per my last email means, can you or can you not read? To reiterate, it's translated into, I hope you understand this because it's the last time I'm going to say this. And this is outside my scope of work. It's saying, I'm not finna do your job or anyone else's for that matter. The tweet on the left reads, I appreciate being bilingual with both African American vernacular English and corporate white American English. To be an authority is to not only be influential on dominant society, but also to cause change. Black Twitter does that through its use of African American rhetorical features, whether it's through cultural memes and gifs, social movements, or political awareness. Hashtags like hashtag Black Lives Matter, hashtag Reclaiming My Time, hashtag Hot Girl Summer, hashtag Oscars So White, hashtag If They Gun Me Down, hashtag I Guess I'm With Her, all shape the ways in which Black culture is seen. Businesses and industries collect revenues, political affairs are addressed, and the intended purpose of Twitter as a whole. My research project was designed to analyze Black Twitter as a cultural, social, and political authority. By examining Black Twitter's use of rhetorical features from the African American oral tradition, my project shows how Black Twitter plays a significant role in perpetuating African American cultural practices, specifically its import in the continuation of the African American oral tradition. Black Twitter's use of African American rhetorical features, call and response, signification, and code switching, found in everyday speech and common language of the Black community, has helped to establish the social media platform as a cultural, social, and political authority. Its engagement with African American rhetorical features allows for the continuation of the tradition in a new platform and online space. Thank you.